here today on serious business, the business of supporting, of defending, and of standing with our brothers of the Sahel Alliance. We stand with Capt.Traore. We stand with General Goita. We stand with General Chiani. We stand with all independent African countries. I say this unequivocally and without apology. Anybody in Africa who is not a black African, anybody in Africa who is not a black African is an invader, a colonizer, or an opportunist. Stop telling these people they African. You're not African because you in Africa, no more than I'm French because I'm in France, no more than I'm British because I'm in England. Africa is the land of the blacks. That is ours. It don't belong to nobody else, brothers and sisters. When you allow a foreign military in your country, you're giving up security, sovereignty. African countries who are letting American soldiers in, British soldiers in, French soldiers in, Portuguese soldiers in, Dutch soldiers in, you are giving up your security, sovereignty, and you are allowing the enemies of Africa to recruit your soldiers and use them to undermine the political infrastructure and the economic system of your country. We want white men military out of Africa. Africa can secure herself. She don't need AFRICOM in Africa. Brothers and sisters, listen to me, brothers and sisters. The African Union, to some degree, is a political joke. And I'm saying that with respect. And the reason I'm saying the African Union, to some degree, is a political joke is because the decisions that are made by the African Union are not binding on the member states. Let me say it again. The decisions made by the African Union are not binding on the member states. So nobody has to listen, agree to, or follow the decisions of the AU. We need a continental government where the decisions are binding. We need a United States of Africa. One military, one economy, one education, one government. Brothers and sisters.
Dr. Umar, that is his name. He's an African American. He's an activist. He's a Pan-African. And I want to agree with Dr. Umar in many things. I don't know what you're going to say about it, but me personally as an individual, I want to agree with him in many, many, many things. Number one, Dr. Umar is talking truth here. He has some sense in whatever the things that he's saying right now here. And I want you to take a look, to take a listen, a good listen to him. Yeah? You know, he's an African American, and this is one of the things that has made me fall in love with African Americans, because Africa has become their business and Traore has become their business. And they really love what he is doing. They really love how and which kind of a person he has become. Right now, all of us understand and we know that we've built Europe as Africans. We've developed Europe as Africans. We have made them look the way they are looking like. We've made them be the kind of people they are. Yeah? Who doesn't know that Europe is surviving because they are associating themselves with Africa? A lot of people know that. Many people know that. That it's our wealth they're using, it's our minerals they're using, it's our labor they're using. Because during the time of colonization, African Americans, African diasporans, black people were taken from Africa. They were taken into slavery. They went there and they've built Europe. Yeah, for all these years. Europe is looking the way it's looking like because black people had to be subjected to difficult works for them to be able to build Europe. Yeah? Yeah. And everybody knows that. So they've used Africa on labor. They've used African minerals and resources to build themselves and every other thing, many other things. And Dr. Umar comes and says, Africa for Africans, and African mineral, African resources, and African things for Africans, and the West should leave Africa alone. And the West should leave Ibrahim Traore alone. It should. And he's very bold about that. I want you to listen to him to the end. Everything he says, the speech he's giving. Then I'm going to come back and talk about it. Yeah? I'm going to give my sentiments. I'm going to talk about it because I want us to understand some 1, 2, 3 things here. Yeah? Africa needs to be free. It is a fight we are in. Some people would be asking themselves, we come here talking about the same things over and over again. But the truth remains. This is a revolution. It's a fight for the independence and for the freedom of the continent. That's why we keep on talking about it. That's why we keep on addressing it every other time. Yeah. Take a look. Watch this video to the end. Let's come back and talk about it.
Of Dr. Umar Johnson, a great black man who has been fighting for black people all over the world. He's been doing it for African Americans. He's been doing it for Haitians. He's been doing it for Africans in Africa. In fact, right now, I think he has the Ghanaian nationality, which we love to have him among us. So please, put your hands together. Welcome Dr. Umar Johnson on stage. Doctor, the stage is yours.
New York City, make some noise. Black power. Black power. Black power. Dr. Umar Ifatunde is here, and I'm happy to be with my Harlem family again. You know, Harlem, New York City gave birth to Dr. Umar on October the 30th of 2010 at the National Black Theater. I did my first lecture there in New York City, and in 48 hours, I was a household name. So thank you, New York City. We are here today on serious business, the business of supporting, of defending, and of standing with our brothers of the Sahel Alliance. We stand with Captain Ibrahim Traore. We stand with General Goita. We stand with General Chiani. We stand with all independent African countries. 2 weeks ago, I was at the Oxford Union. I received an invitation to debate the father of Elon Musk, Elon Musk. And the topic of the debate was, does Africa still need her colonizers? That was the question. And I find it interesting that people believe Africa cannot govern herself when Africa was governing herself when Europeans were still crawling around inside the caves. So if we could govern ourselves before the white man came to Africa, why can't we govern ourselves after the white man left Africa? The truth of the matter, it's not that Africa needs Europe. Africa doesn't need France. Africa doesn't need the United States. Africa doesn't need Belgium. Africa doesn't need England. Africa needs the freedom to implement an African program. It is outside interference. It is outside interference. It is outside interference that keeps Africa from being the great and mighty continent it is. If the Sahel Alliance was allowed to do what was best for African people, it would be done already. If Ghana, if Nigeria, if Eritrea, if Botswana, if Lesotho, if Togo and Benin, if Angola and Namibia, if the African states were allowed to carry out their own agenda, we won't have a problem of 340 million Africans starving. We won't have a problem of food insecurity. Help me understand how Africans can be starving in Africa when Africa has enough agricultural land to feed the entire world, brothers and sisters. Africa can feed the entire world. So if Africa can feed the entire world, why do we have starvation on the African continent? I'll tell you why. Here in the United States, we have two parasite organizations. And when you go home tonight, Dr. Umar is giving you a homework assignment. I want you to look up the World Bank. And I want you to look up the International Monetary Fund, the IMF and the WB. Both of these institutions are headquartered in Washington, D.C. These institutions, their job is to go into Africa and sell false promises with high interest loans, and they bankrupt and sabotage the economies of independent African countries. And the weapon, as Thomas Sankara, that great son of Africa, said, the weapon, as Thomas Sankara said in 1987, the weapon is debt. They use debt as a rope they put around the necks of African heads of state to force them to do what America wants them to do, to force them to do what Britain and France and Holland wants them to do. The reason Africa must stop accepting loans from white parasite countries, the reason I'm so proud of Captain Traore and his decision to stop taking loans and handouts from the West is these loans come with 3 requirements, brothers and sisters. I need you to understand this, because when you say why Africa been free for 60 and 70 years and still backwards, you need to know why. It's not because of the leadership. It's not because of the people. It's because of the constant invasion and meddling of the white man. First of all, when you take loans from the World Bank and the IMF, they charge extremely high interest rates. You can never pay back the loans that they give you. The loans that they give to Africa are designed to impoverish Africa. This is why the more money Africa gets, the poorer Africa becomes. First of all, why are the people in the richest continent on earth in need of handouts from other countries? Ask yourself that. Hello? The richest continent on earth is depending on handouts from countries that don't even have a quarter of its mineral value. France has 2,400 tons of gold. I repeat, France has 2,400 tons of gold, but France doesn't have a single gold mine. So how, brothers and sisters, how can France have 2,400 tons of gold and France doesn't have a single gold mine? Because you stole it from Africa. You stole it from Africa. We don't want no loans. We don't want no handouts. We want our wealth back, and we want you out. I said we want our wealth back, and we want you out. We want our wealth back, and we want you out. We want our wealth back, and we want you out. We want our wealth back, and we want you out. We want our wealth back, and we want you out. Make some noise, brothers and sisters. the fact that Captain Ibrahim Traore is only 37 years old.
Yes.
He's right around that age with Dr. King and Malcolm and Prime Minister Patrice Lumumba and Amilcar Cabral and Robert Sobukwe and Dedan Kimathi. He's right around that age and when they reach the apex. And we have to understand something, that it will be the youth that leads us. It will be the elders who teach us, but it will be the youth that lead us. I don't know where I was. I think I was in Manchester, England, when I saw the White House conversation between President Trump and President Ramaphosa of South Africa. And I was so disgusted by the manner in which Donald Trump made accusations against our South African brothers and sisters of appropriating land from the parasitic colonizers. Now, Donald Trump and white power in general, whenever they accuse African people of war crime, they never give evidence, but more importantly, brothers and sisters, they never put our behavior in historical context. You cannot explain anything in Africa. You can't explain anything in the African diaspora unless you put it in historical context. And I'm disappointed in President Ramaphosa because he did not take the opportunity to clarify the historical narrative over the land controversy in South Africa. You came there hundreds of years ago and you stole the land, you murdered for the land, you killed for that land. And just because you have something for a long time does not make it yours. If you steal my home 100 years ago, I got a right to take it back now. It is still my home. And we, as African people, have to stop making the mistake of letting non-Africans think that Africa is their home. Nobody else makes you feel like their home is yours. When we are in China, we're treated like dogs. When we are in Europe, we're treated like dogs. Wherever we go in the world, we're treated like dogs. In Paris, like dogs. In Belgium, like dogs. Here in America, like dogs. And we got the audacity, in the only continent where we dominate, to tell white people, although you came here by stealing, to tell white people, although you came here through manipulation, to tell white people, although you took Africa through genocide, I'm going to forget how you took it, and I'm going to treat you like my brother. Brothers and sisters, hear me well. As a representative of the global Pan-Africanist freedom struggle, I say this unequivocally and without apology. Anybody in Africa who is not a black African, anybody in Africa who is not a black African is an invader, a colonizer, or an opportunist. Stop telling these people they're African. You're not African because you're in Africa, no more than I'm French because I'm in France, no more than I'm British because I'm in England. Africa is the land of the blacks. That is ours. It don't belong to nobody else, brothers and sisters. I saw the outgoing commander of AFRICOM, Supreme Coon, General Michael Langley, make a tongue-in-cheek threat against Captain Ibrahim Traore. He said, dishonestly, he said He lied when he said Captain Ibrahim Traore is using the resources of Burkina Faso to benefit himself and not his people. Well, just like Thomas Sankara, the brother wears the same kind of uniform every day, just like Thomas Sankara. He lives and walks with the everyday people of Burkina Faso, land of the upright people, just like Thomas Sankara. He's a freedom fighter and a grassroots organizer. He's not an opportunist. And President Trump, General Michael Langley, how dare you act like you care about African people? If you cared about African people, why don't you cancel the debt of the World Bank and the International Monetary Fund? If you care about African people, why are 25% of African children on the continent forcibly engaged in child labor? Why do we have millions of African children dying and risking their lives for white corporations so they can run off with the uranium, so they can run off with the cobalt, so they can run off with the lithium, so they can run off with the coltan? If you care about Africa, why don't you get your white parasitic corporations out of Africa? Elon Musk, you claim that you believe in democracy. Well, Elon Musk, like I told your father 2 weeks ago, if you care about democracy, why are children dying in the Congo so you can have resources for your Tesla rechargeable automobiles if you care about democracy? Why are children in Africa mining lithium in the Congo, cobalt in the Congo, coltan in the Congo for Apple computers, for Microsoft, for Tesla, and Bill Gates? You care so much about black health that you're trying to force the African Union to stop African farmers from growing food with indigenous organic seed that they've been using in their family for tens of thousands of years. Bill Gates is trying to force Africa, not some countries, but all the countries, to start growing food with genetically modified organisms, brothers and sisters. This is why Bill Gates has become the #1 owner of arable land in the United States of America since COVID. Let me say that again. In 5 years since the COVID outbreak, Bill Gates has become the #1 owner of arable land in the United States. You think that's a coincidence? He's growing that food. They're going to poison that food. And they want to send that food to Africa. They want to use food as a weapon against African people. And why? By 2050, Africa will be home to more than 25% of the entire earth. Africans are already the largest population in the world. We don't know it because many of us don't want to be black no more. We want to be something other than African. Well, guess what? I'm not going to force you to be African. If you don't like your black skin, if you don't like your black nose, if you don't like your hips, your black eyes, your black hair, then the hell with you. Those of us who proud to be African, we're going to keep on pushing. We don't want to bleach our skin. We don't want to wear the white woman's hair. We don't want to marry the white man's daughter. We don't want nothing Europe got, because Africa got plenty, and everybody knows that nobody can run this world without Africa's resources. If Africa had control over its own resources, she wouldn't be in this situation. Barack Obama was made president of the United States for the express purpose of going into Africa and building AFRICOM bases all over sub-Saharan Africa. And guess what, brothers and sisters? Since Barack Obama popularized AFRICOM in Africa, there have been over 18 coups in the past year and a half, and of the 18 coup attempts in the past year and a half, 90% of them were in countries where there was an AFRICOM base. The CIA is training the opposition to democratically elected Pan-Africanist leaders, and the CIA is financing the overthrow of black leaders who does not dance to the tune of America. Listen. When you allow a foreign military in your country, you're giving up security, sovereignty. African countries who are letting American soldiers in, British soldiers in, French soldiers in, Portuguese soldiers in, Dutch soldiers in, you are giving up your security, sovereignty, and you are allowing the enemies of Africa to recruit your soldiers and use them to undermine the political infrastructure and the economic system of your country. We want white men military out of Africa. Africa can secure herself. She don't need AFRICOM in Africa. Brothers and sisters, a minute ago I told you that the first handicap of taking money from the white man is the debt that accrues to African countries. The second handicap of taking debt from the white man is you don't even get to choose how you're going to spend that money. I want y'all to listen to me. African countries do not choose how they spend the loans that they get from the World Bank and the IMF. They tell you who to spend the money with. They tell you what corporation's going to come and do the work. They tell you who you can't spend the money with. And check this out, brothers and sisters. Most of the time, the loan money that Africa gets, it never even goes to Africa. It gets sent to the corporations that the white power structure chooses to come into your country and build your hospital, build your roads, clean your water, build your schools. They're not even allowed to use the money how they want to use it. The white man gives the money to white corporations from America and Europe, and they go into Africa, getting paid by their government, and you got to pay the bill. Look at that. Look at that. And the third handicap of taking money from the white man is that he forces you to operate an open market economy in Africa. You know what that means? If I'm in Senegal and we have our own salt, I don't want nobody coming into Senegal to sell no salt because we got our own. So we're going to nationalize salt in Senegal. If I'm in Ghana and we got cacao, I'm going to nationalize cacao, and I don't want no country bringing cacao into my country. If I'm Benin and we got palm oil, I'm going to nationalize the palm oil, and I don't want no outside companies selling palm oil, so I can do what? Build my economy and provide jobs to my people. But the white man says you can't do that. The white man says you can't nationalize. The white man says you cannot protect your indigenous economy. You want to know why African countries that have their own salt is importing salt? You want to know why African countries who have their own poultry are importing chickens? You know why African countries that have their own iron are importing iron ore? It's because the white man sabotages the natural markets of that country, so Africa can always be dependent on the white man. Right now, sub-Saharan Africa owes the white man over $42 billion. $42 billion. Somebody help me understand how you enslaved my people, robbed my resources for over a century, and I owe you $42 billion. We need the African Union to unite and to organize And we need the African Union to tell the white man in one voice, all 54, all 55 countries, in one voice, tell the white man, we will not pay and you cannot stay. Say it with me. We will not pay and you cannot stay. We will not pay, you cannot stay. We will not pay, you cannot stay. As I begin to wrap up, the Right Excellent, Most Honorable Marcus Messiah Garvey, the greatest Pan-Africanist of all time, the father of modern Pan-Africanism, who walked the streets of Harlem, New York, 100 years ago. Marcus Garvey's vision was not an organization of African unity. His vision was not an African Union. The vision of the Honorable Marcus Messiah Garvey and the vision of one of his greatest students, Osajafo, Dr. Kwame Nkrumah, the vision was for a United States of Africa. Listen to me, brothers and sisters. The African Union, to some degree, is a political joke. And I'm saying that with respect. And the reason I'm saying the African Union, to some degree, is a political joke is because the decisions that are made by the African Union are not binding on the member states. Let me say it again. The decisions made by the African Union are not binding on the member states. So nobody has to listen, agree to, or follow the decisions of the AU. We need a continental government where the decisions are binding. We need a United States of Africa. One military, one economy, one education, one government. Brothers and sisters, 1/3, and I'm wrapping up. Oh, good? Okay. Pay attention to the video camera behind you, brothers and sisters. The hard work that Capt.Traore is doing in Africa. Give him a hand, brothers and sisters. We stand with Burkina Faso. We stand with Mali. We stand with Niger. We stand with Senegal. We stand with all the independent African countries. Yes, indeed. Forward ever, backward never, brothers and sisters. 1/3 of all African nations are small nations, geographically speaking. The white man set it up this way before he left. The reason the white man balkanized Africa into a whole bunch of small countries is to make sure no country could ever become militaristically strong enough, politically strong enough, or economically strong enough to throw off the chains of neocolonialism. Togo can't take on the World Bank alone. Benin can't take on the World Bank alone. Lesotho can't take on the World Bank alone. Eritrea can't take on the World Bank alone. They have to organize. They have to mobilize. So what can we do in the United States? First of all, let me say this. When I look out here, I see Brooklyn Africans right next to Nigerian Africans. I see Harlem Africans right next to Ghanaian Africans. I see Long Island Africans right next to Congolese Africans. And we got the same color. We got the same hair. We got the same nose. We got the same lips. Don't you let no nobody tear African people apart. United we stand, divided we fall. We are one people. You may have your own religion, but your religion does not precede our race. You may have your own flag, but your flag does not take precedent over the race. You might speak your own language, but your language does not take precedent over the race. You may have your own culture, your own customs, your own way of doing things, but that is for your kingdom. Your kingdom is a part of Africa. Your kingdom is not greater than Africa. One African people. Brothers and sisters, Osajifo Dr. Kwame Nkrumah said, the only way for an independent African nation to show what they can do is to be an independent African nation. The reason the white man don't want to get out of Africa, because Africa is so minerally rich and Africa is so minerally strong that if we put the white man out of Africa, there would be no more atomic bombs. If we put him out of Africa, there would be no more Mercedes-Benz. If we put him out of Africa, there would be no more iPhone and Google phone and helicopter, airplane. Do you realize that the purest uranium in the world is on the continent? The purest lithium in the world is on the continent. The purest cobalt in the world is on the continent. The purest coltan in the world is in Africa. And if you ain't got no uranium, if you ain't got no lithium, if you ain't got no coltan, if you ain't got no cobalt, you ain't got no damn Bill Gates or Elon Musk. Black power, brothers and sisters. Black power, brothers and sisters. This is what we must do in the diaspora to support Capt.Traore. This is what we must do in the diaspora to support General Chiani and General Goita. We have to organize our finances. The diaspora can be Africa's secret weapon. The diaspora can be Africa's weapon of mass destruction. In America, we are $2 trillion alone. That don't include our brothers and sisters in Canada. That don't include our Latino Africans in Central and South America. That don't include our Jamaican and Haitian and Bayesian, St. Croix, St. Thomas, St. Lucia, St. Kitts, St. Martin. It don't even include our Caribbean African family. It doesn't include our Australian African family. It doesn't include our French and British and Scottish and Irish and Dutch and Belgian African family. If we organize the money in the diaspora, no African country would ever need to take out another loan again. Brothers and sisters, we can be the African diasporan bank for continental independence. We are not on the outside looking in. We're on the outside waiting to get in. And for those of you who are not Pan-Africanists, who still think that being a tribalist is better than being a Pan-Africanist, I got some homework for you. There was a national security memorandum released by the United States State Department. I think it was memorandum number 42. Don't quote me. But this memorandum that came from the CIA and the National Security Agency and the State Department, this was in the 1980s, brothers and sisters. And what they said, the greatest threat to American foreign interests, The greatest threat to white world supremacy was for Africans in Africa to organize with Africans in America. They said if you let Black Africa and Black America unite hands across the Atlantic, it would destroy the global white power structure, brothers and sisters. We are the solution. And for those of us who are the children of the transatlantic slave trade, for those of us whose ancestors was put on the bottom of ships, for those of us whose mothers was raped and fathers was castrated, for those of us whose ancestors was taken from our ancestral home, your ancestors sent Dr. Umar here today to let you know you are just as African as any other African, and don't you let nobody tell you who you are. Africa for the Africans, those at home and those abroad. I want to close with this. Brothers and sisters, the Honorable Marcus Garvey said, the greatest weapon used against the Negro is disorganization. The Right Excellent Honorable Marcus Messiah Garvey said, if the black man and woman are not careful, you will drink in all the poison of Western civilization and you will die from it. Marcus Garvey said, the greatest weapon ever used against us was disorganization. Marcus Garvey was asked, are you an African or are you a Jamaican? Are you an African or are you a Jamaican? And the greatest prophet of Pan-Africanism looked up and said, you ask me, am I African or am I Jamaican? And I tell you, I would never, ever give up a continent for an island. I am an African, brothers and sisters. If we as African people, I'm speaking about the whole family, because as a Pan-Africanist, I speak for the whole family. From Alabama to Angola, from Johannesburg to New Jersey, I speak for the whole family. From Barbados to Brooklyn, I speak for the whole family. If we don't survive the 21st century, African people may become a permanent underclass globally. But you are not going to let that happen. And I am not going to let that happen. And Captain Ibrahim is not going to let that happen. And General Goita is not going to let that happen. And General Chiani is not going to let that happen. Nigeria is not going to let that happen. Jamaica is not going to let that happen. Panama is not going to let that happen. Costa Rica is not going to let that happen. Australian Africans is not going to let that happen. Marcus Garvey said, if we could only get to know ourselves today, we would have a new reality tomorrow. Can Africa survive the white man? That ain't the question. She already has. The question is, can the white man survive without the black man? No. Brothers and sisters, although white supremacy has been our #1 problem, let us not forget about the Chinese invasion. Let us not forget that the Chinese are making inroads all over Africa, all over the Caribbean. I am so hurt. I am so disappointed. I am so despondent that after all the blood Africa shed to get free, all the blood the Caribbean islands shed for independence, we tell the white man to get out and we roll out a red carpet for the yellow man to come in. We're going to have to fight a second independence war to get the Chinese out of Africa, because we did not learn our lesson from history. Brothers and sisters, we don't need any friends. Brothers and sisters, we don't have any friends. Nobody cares about African people except to use you, exploit you, manipulate you, opportunize against you. I'm not telling you to hate red. I'm not telling you to hate white. I'm not telling you to hate brown. I'm not telling you to hate yellow. I'm telling you to understand that when we were enslaved and when we were colonized, none of those countries came to our aid. They were there to exploit just like the next one. We don't have no friends. We don't need no friends. Dr. John Henry Clark, that great Pan-Africanist, said, it amazes me how there's over 1 billion Africans in the world and we are always looking for somebody else to save us. I close with a quote from our ancestor Frederick Douglass. And before I close, I'm going to give you my cell number, so if you need to reach Dr. Umar, you can reach. I will be in the Democratic Republic of the Congo to celebrate the 100th Earth Day, the centennial of Prime Minister Patrice Lumumba, brothers and sisters. I will be in South Africa with my Ethiopian World Federation brothers and sisters, standing in solidarity with our Zulu Africans and our Xhosa Africans and our Swazi Africans and our Khoi Africans. For those of y'all who don't know, the Ethiopian World Federation was founded here in New York. When Mussolini invaded Ethiopia, black men and women from America said, give me a rifle and let me go to Africa and fight to keep Ethiopia free. They went to the government and said, send me home to defend the only country that had never been colonized. And the government said, hell no. And so the Ethiopian World Federation was founded to support not only Ethiopia, but the entire continent with the blood, sweat, and dollars of the diaspora African. We have always been involved in Africa, brothers and sisters. My number is 215-989-9858. 215-989-9858. Once more for the elders, 215-989-9858. My Kenyan Africans, I will be with you in January for the Traverse Conference in Kenya. Looking forward to going back to Kenya. I want to say this. My black parents in the Americas, stop putting our children in special education. Stop putting our children on psychiatric medication. I am a certified school psychologist by profession. Black children in Harlem don't have learning disabilities. Black children in Brooklyn don't have emotional disturbances. Black children in Queens are not intellectually disabled. Black children in Staten Island don't have ADHD. Stop letting New York City public schools exploit your children for money. They get money when we evaluate and label your child. They get paid for miseducating your child. Your baby don't need an IEP. All they need this summer is a tutor, brothers and sisters. And I better not catch none of my New York City children playing basketball when they can't read on grade level this summer. I better not catch none of my New York City children playing football when they can't count on grade level. I better not catch none of my New York City children pursuing careers in art and entertainment when they can't even complete their academics on state required grade level. We got to stop glorifying mediocrity. We need a revolution in black excellence. If he don't get it right, make him do it over. If she don't get it right, make her do it over. Black men and black women, stay off the internet fighting each other. Black men and black women have no business tearing each other down for the pleasure of the white man. What is wrong with you? Black men, we're the only men who will get on YouTube and slander our women. Black women, you're the only women who will get on YouTube and slander your man. Divide and conquer, separate and rule. We stand together or we don't stand. Frederick Douglass said, if there is no struggle, there is no progress. My family came to America from Africa, 1701. Black man named Bailey, taken to Talbot County, Maryland. He married a black woman named Selah, for whom my daughter is named. 1745, they had Grandma Jenny. 1774, they had Grandma Betsy. Grandma Betsy married a free black man, Grandpa Isaac. They had 12 children. One daughter was named Harriet. Another daughter was named Young Betsy, my 5 times great-grandmother. These 2 black women, these 2 sisters, were raped by the slave master who owned our family. As a result of that rape, in 1818, Aunt Harriet gave birth to the greatest black leader to ever walk American soil. His name was Frederick Augustus Washington Bailey. At the age of 20, Cousin Frederick ran away from slavery out of Baltimore through Philadelphia into New York, and he changed his name from Fred Bailey to Frederick Douglass to hide his identity on the fugitive slave trail. The next year in 1819, his half-brother and first cousin was born. My grandfather, Stephen Henry Bailey. Grandpa Steve married Grandma Caroline. Their firstborn son was George Washington Bailey, my 3 times great-grandfather, and the first black public school teacher in Dayton, Maryland. When Abraham Lincoln allows the black soldiers in the Civil War, Grandpa George and his son, my grandpa Stephen, fought in the U.S. Colored Troops of Maryland. Frederick Douglass didn't fight, but he sent his sons, my cousins, Lewis and Charles. They went to the 54th Massachusetts Colored Regiment. When the Civil War was over, Grandpa George married Grandma Annie. They had Grandma Caroline. She moved to Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. She had Grandma Vivian. Grandma Vivian married a Spanish-speaking Afro-Cuban, my great-grandpa Cicero, who I met on his deathbed. They had my Grandma Ida. She met and married James Johnson. They had my father Jamal. He met and married my mother Barbara in North Philadelphia. And on August the 21st, the anniversary of the Haitian Revolution, August the 21st, the anniversary of the Nat Turner Revolution, August the 21st, the anniversary of the George Jackson Prison Revolution, August the 21st, the day Emmett Till showed up in Money, Mississippi. I was born in North Philadelphia. Frederick Douglass said, if there is no struggle, there is no progress. Those who profess to favor freedom but deprecate agitation are like men who want crops without plowing up the ground. They want the rain, but can't stand the thunder or the lightning. They want the ocean, but they're scared of the awful roar of the water. Frederick Douglass said, a man may not get all he pays for, but you will pay for everything that you get. And if we as African people are ever to become free, we must pay for that freedom with blood, with blows, with our life. But he who wants to be free must strike the first blow. Frederick said, for 20 years, I prayed on my knees to God for freedom, but the good Lord gave Frederick Douglass no freedom until I got up off my knees and start praying with my feet. He said, if you want respect from the white man, why do you look for pity? The man who respects you will never pity you, and the man who pities you will never respect you. Queen Mother Harriet Tubman said, every time she led Africans on the Underground Railroad, she had to take a rifle or a pistol, because every once in a while, some scared Negro would try to turn back. And Queen Mother Harriet said, whenever that happened, I would cock my pistol right up to the scared slave's head, and I would say, dead niggas tell no tales, you go on or you die here. And because of that, I never ran my train off the track, and I never lost a passenger. Long live Burkina Faso! Long live Mali! Long live Niger! Long live Africa! Free and independent! Black power, brothers and sisters.
I do not really know how Europe is going to look like someday when Africa finally unites, or when Africa finally comes together, join their hands together and say, we don't want to be used anymore. We don't want to be manipulated anymore. We don't want to be taken for granted anymore. I don't know how the United States of America, I don't know how Belgium, I don't know how France, I don't know how all these Europe countries are going to look like if one day African countries come together and they say, we're uniting, and black people in Europe come together, African Americans come together, they come back to Africa and say, you know what, guys, we are uniting. We have decided to unite. Yeah? I don't know how it's going to look like. I don't know. Because this can be the biggest, the biggest weapon that Africa and black people can be able to use. And that is why, once upon a time, Louis Farrakhan says, the unity of a black person is like an atomic bomb. Take a look. He says, the unity of a black person is like atomic or hydrogen bomb. The unity of black people. And I don't know, when this time finally comes, when black people come together and unite and say, we want to work things together. We want to support our black people. We want to support our black people from Africa and all that. I don't know where Europe is going to hide itself, because that means there will be no longer exploitation. There will be no longer manipulation. There will be no longer intimidation. There will be no longer dictation that is happening in Africa right now. There will be no longer that. It will not be experienced. It will not be seen. You're going to walk every place all around. You're not going to find that. The advantages they've been having by associating themselves to Africa will no longer be there. Because that means now black people will be speaking the same language. Black leaders will be speaking the same language. Black people would have come together, are walking the same journey, they've decided on the same thing, and nobody will be able to manipulate them anymore. They will say something, they will follow, they will agree, they're going to execute it. It will be very difficult for you to manipulate people who are united. And that is why it is a threat to them when black people come together. Why is it difficult for African Americans to come back to Africa? Because the Europe governments is making it difficult for them to actually come back to Africa. It's not that they're not willing to. Many of them are willing to. But it has been made very difficult for them to come back to Africa. Reason being, the black unity is feared. When black people decide to come together, it is a threat to the West. It is a threat to Europe. And the imperialists cannot allow that. That is why when Mali, Niger, and Burkina Faso, they wanted to break boundaries and come together, that one sent fear to the West. And they were really against that. And even today, that is the only thing that makes them terrified so much compared to every other thing. Why? Because when these countries, 3 countries come together, number 1, they are going to have the same military. Number 2, they are going to use the same currency. Number 3, they are going to speak the same language, agree on the same things. And they are going to be one of the strongest countries in Africa that even the West cannot be able to manipulate them. And that is why when Europe came to Africa, number 1, the first thing they did for them to be able to conquer and rule us was to divide Africa into many parts. And everybody was taking a certain part. People from Africa began speaking different kind of languages. They could not understand each other. Do you remember the story of the Tower of Babel? When people were building the Tower of Babel, they built it. Their aim, their intention was for them to reach heaven, to reach where God is, and begin conversing and having a conversation with God one-on-one, because they had been tired, of conversing with God they are not seeing. They had to build the Tower of Babel. They built the tower. And then the story says, when God was in heaven and felt like these people are really getting closer to me, what did he do? He confused them by giving them different languages. And then they could not understand each other. They could not listen to each other. Everybody was speaking their own language. So there was no way you would ask people for the help, because when you're speaking to them, they feel like whatever you are saying, they cannot be able to understand. It's just an example I'm using. In Africa, people were divided, different languages. You couldn't listen to your friend. You couldn't listen to your neighbor. People from West Africa, they began speaking French. Other people were speaking English. Other people were speaking Spanish and all that. Other people were speaking Dutch and all that. It was the strategy of dividing and ruling. Dividing and conquer. And that is what happened. Yeah? That is how they conquered us. Because they knew when black people are in the same unity, like are together, it will be very difficult for them to defeat black people. Yeah? Because they fear that unity of black people. The unity of black people is very strong. And that is how they began all this thing. Colonization became easy. They started exploiting. And even today, they're exploiting and they're not willing to leave. But black people are coming together and they're saying no to that. My question is, when black people finally come together and they say no to everything that the West is doing, is the West going to survive? Because West is surviving through the help of Africa. We're helping them even without wanting to help them. They're manipulating us into helping them. And Dr. Umar is saying Africa should be left alone. The minerals of Africa, the resources of Africa, and everything that belongs to an African should remain for an African. Leave Africa alone. Hands off Captain Capt.Traore. He is the leader that has come out to decide to help, to protect, to build, to revolve, to liberate, and to bring independence and freedom into the continent of Africa. And nobody should dare touch him. Because if you do, we're going to touch you too. It's a bold message from Dr. Umar. It's a bold message from an African-American activist, Pan-African, who wants the best also for the continent of Africa. And I take this opportunity to give my credits to all African Americans out there who have always stood by Captain Ibrahim Traore and have said, whatever come may, but we must support Captain Ibrahim Traore. What do you think about it? Tell me in the comment section what you think about it. I'm going to do my best to make sure I read all the comments and give a response where possible. I am Atambahiti. This is African Streamline. If it's the first time to be here, do not forget to subscribe. For the returning subscribers, I salute you. You are the best people that I've ever met, that I've ever seen, and I love you very, very, very much. God bless you.